Good afternoon, Manuel. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining in this important conversation. We're here today to discuss Virginia's future and all that is at stake in this year's governor's race due to Glenn Youngkin's extreme right-wing agenda. But first, I did want to highlight the recent news that Glenn is out on the campaign trail suggesting that Donald Trump could be reinstated by the courts as president. Folks, this is all out of control. We've known for a long time that Glenn is completely loyal to Trump and that he's willing to engage in these dangerous election lies. But this is taking it to the next level. Virginia's next governor needs to be committed to protecting our voting rights, not advancing unhinged conspiracy theories. Today, the Democratic-led General Assembly is continuing its work allocating President Biden's American Rescue Plan funds that's going to help us keep Virginia moving forward. And don't forget, Glenn Youngkin has called the American Rescue Plan and those vital funds unnecessary. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Glenn Youngkin is pushing a right-wing economic plan that would be disastrous for our Commonwealth and our citizens. Youngkin is proposing an extreme economic agenda that would destroy our economy, decimate public safety, and blow a big old massive hole in our public education funding. If he gets a chance, Glenn would send Virginia straight into that ditch he likes to talk so much about. Just this weekend, the Washington Post editorial board clearly illustrated what is at stake with Glenn Youngkin's radical economic plan. And even after Virginia was ranked CNBC's top state for business, once again, Glenn doubled down and insisted that our Commonwealth is in the ditch. His proposals now would make that a reality. Youngkin wants to get rid of the state income tax, but he doesn't have a plan, no plan at all to pay for the makeup of that. This is the source of 72% of the revenue in the general fund budget. You enact Glenn Youngkin's plan and essential services that so many Virginians rely on would be decimated. Glenn Youngkin would cut hundreds of millions in funding for local public safety agencies and billions from our education budget. Now, the Republicans in Kansas and Louisiana have already tried Glenn's plan, and they failed miserably. We don't need Youngkin to bring those disastrous ideas and failures to Virginia. We must do everything we possibly can to defeat Glenn Youngkin and his Republican allies this November in order to keep our great Commonwealth moving forward. And now I'd like to introduce someone who has worked really hard in the Commonwealth, but particularly these last 5 years here as the mayor of the capital city of Richmond to keep Richmond moving forward. Mayor LeVar Stoney.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Swecker, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the future of the Commonwealth. Now, I've said it before, but there's no better person to continue lifting up Virginia and building a stronger post-pandemic economy than Terry McAuliffe. So let me be clear. The first step to keeping our economy strong and our Commonwealth moving forward is electing Terry McAuliffe governor. COVID-19, as we've all seen in every area of the state, has impacted every aspect of Virginians' lives, from our economy and education to housing, healthcare, and more. Now, Terry's record of bringing jobs and funding to Virginia is exactly the kind of leadership we need during this time of crisis. Now, on the other hand, this character, Glenn Youngkin, whose extreme views and dangerous Republican policies are completely wrong for Virginia. While Glenn is out of step with Virginians on everything from healthcare, reproductive rights, to education and voting rights, what I saw in his new economic plan is sounding a lot of alarms. He's been campaigning on this reckless lie that Virginia is in the ditch, which we know is nonsense. but his own economic proposal seems perfectly designed to take our great Commonwealth off the rails. We can't afford that. Glenn's agenda would be beyond damaging to our economy, to communities and families all across this great state. Glenn's proposed economic plan will leave our budget gutted. Small towns and communities and cities like mine, like the capital, will be the ones who suffer this the most. Unsurprisingly, this is of no concern to Glenn Youngkin and his campaign. And he lets workers down time and time again, or for his billionaire buddies. What Glenn doesn't know or care about is what I know firsthand as the mayor of our capital city. That gutting our essential services like this would devastate our communities and make us less safe. I've been on the front lines of this pandemic, and I know how critical these public services are to our community and to our economy. When Glenn trots out with the Republican talking points, he doesn't consider the damage his extreme ideas would have on our children, our families, and our entire Commonwealth. So the question is, who does Glenn Youngkin think will protect Virginians when his tax plan defunds our police and eliminates hundreds of officers? If his economic plan went into effect and the cuts were applied across the board, his economic plan would cut $11 million from our city police department and almost $12 million from our sheriff's office. Our Commonwealth Attorney Office would lose close to $2.5 million. Remember, this is if his economic plan went into effect and cuts were applied across the board. Now, who will educate our students when his tax plan eliminates funding for our schools, and his plan would reduce funding for our schools here in Richmond his plan would reduce funding for our schools by $76 million. Now, who will clear our parks and playgrounds when his tax plan decimates resources for city workers? Glenn has refused to address these basic questions, and they are basic, and we all know why. Because he has no answers. Now, as a leader who has to show up and serve my community every day, I know exactly who will be hurt by Glenn Youngkin's radical Republican agenda. Talk about sending Virginia to the ditch. Glenn Youngkin would do exactly that. This November, we have an opportunity to keep building a stronger, safer, more prosperous Virginia by electing my friend, Governor Terry McAuliffe, the 74th governor of the Commonwealth. Terry will increase funding for education, he'll create more jobs, and make the critical investments necessary to take our workforce to the next level. He is the plans and the leadership the Commonwealth needs right now, and together we can defeat an extremist like Glenn Youngkin at the ballot box this November.